Welcome to the Business Mechanic Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, founder of Results Driven Leadership, where we develop managers into highly effective leaders with all of our programs. Today, I've got a short podcast for you. And the topic for today is one that I think is really crucial. Stop taking things so personally for the improvement of your leadership skills. So let's get into it. Communication, of course, is essential to the human experience and being a great leader. And in this much shorter podcast than usual, it's a vacation week, I want to carve out the topic of taking things too personally and tie it to one of my previous podcasts, Difficult Conversations. In that podcast on difficult conversations, you may remember that you want to avoid any predetermined perceptions at all costs. You don't want to go into any tough conversations without having an open mind, because if not, you're going to wind up feeling stressed out, unhappy, anxious over having the conversation, which is likely to propel you to postpone or procrastinate on the conversation, which never makes things better. And part of what you learned in that podcast, and if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it, please. As part of that, you need to remember you may be taking things a little too personally all the time. And in fact, communication skills are one of the most important, however, and often is the most neglected part of guiding yourself to highly effective leadership. It also guards happiness, creates negative emotions, and can be difficult if you don't stop projecting insecurities onto those around you and assuming the worst. So how do you relearn communication skills? And it's really kind of listening and translating skills so that you'll decrease stress and anxiety and improve your overall happiness and confidence, leading to a much more effective leader. Don't take things personally. That sounds so simple. Easily said, hard to do. But I'm going to share some tips today on how you can start doing just that to improve your leadership. So taking things personally and altering how you receive and transcribe input from others. What that means is realize this, and this is so true. Realize nothing other people do, what other people say, is because of you. It's not about you. But this is a very powerful best practice. And as a reminder, these self-limiting beliefs, that's what robs you of confidence and will create needless self-doubt. And I see this in managers in all kinds of situations, is that self-doubt. And self-doubt is the opposite of confident. And the best practice is so simple, yet so profound. Safeguard yourself. Safeguard your mind from unnecessary emotional roller coaster rides. You can apply this best practice to every facet of your life, including your work life, your love life, dealing with your kids, dealing with your parents, your neighbor, your boss, the guy that took your parking space, the person at the grocery store, the list goes on. It's not about you. Now, let me share a formula to help you start dealing with these potentially hurtful behaviors from others. Boiling it down to you have a choice on how to interpret events and feedback from other people. You see, each person, we all do this, each person in the world sees the world in a unique way. So how others treat you says more about them than it does about you. Realize that each person has a subjective reality and that their views are only their views. No facts about who you are or aren't are based on a real truth. It's based on their truth, and it's certainly not based on your truth. And in simple terms, you don't have to believe them. You just don't. But often we do. That's our self-doubt, that's our ego, that's our self-esteem, allowing that interpretation to occur. And these limiting beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, control your reality. And many limiting beliefs stem from a casual comment someone made that you internalized and took as a truth. You interpret it as a truth. And you don't really self-examine it in a way that unpacks it so that is it really true? Is that really the truth? But our mind very naturally and very often, we're not practicing this best practices, allow that to become a truth in our minds, self-limiting thoughts. You see, people project their personal hurts, their wounds, their stories onto whatever person they're talking to. And the guide that I'm going to share with you in just a second is to remind you that in part, everyone is walking around projecting. So remember, no, don't take things personally. Meaning that whatever the person is saying most likely is more about them and not about you. Okay, so now, hopefully you understand the best practice of not taking things personally. However, you're human. How do you reduce stress and conflict and improve confidence in your day-to-day life? Well, you need a method. You've come to the right place. I might happen to have one for you today. Here are 4 ways to stop taking things so personally. Step 1, begin to notice when you're taking things personally. Gear your mind up to notice when you're taking things personally. And usually there's a physical sensation that might feel like a punch in the stomach sometimes. It might feel as if someone is pouring a shame milkshake all over you. You might have a wave of fear or feel confused, and your mind scrambles. And you might also have a certain signal that tells you that and then you'll know you're taking something personally. For me, what I've recognized and how I've tried to do a better job, and nobody's perfect at that, including this podcaster, but I'm way better at today than I was 20 years ago at this. So for me, I get a little tingle up the back of my neck, right between the neck and the base of my skull. That little tingle. And I've learned to recognize that as my signal to slow down, redirect my thoughts. So as you recognize your signal, whatever it might be, redirect your thought, and don't take it personally. What might be your signal? Well, as you take step number one, commit to not taking things personally. And as you are placed into situations or conversations that you feel like you're being attacked in some way, recognize that signal, redirect your thought. Don't take this personally. You must learn to recognize that your inner critic's voice, which is very powerful for many, that your inner critic's voice is shifting you to taking something personally. And you've got to redirect your thought to say, don't take this personally. And if you don't do that, for certain, your stress level will begin to rise. Recognize what you feel and begin to be aware of the physical sensations in your body. Now, there's no need to fix it at this point. The first step is awareness. Just become aware and practice awareness and detecting your signal. From there, we can go to step number two, which is a critical step. This is the flow and the order that you have to go in. And step number two is when you recognize it, shift from taking it personally to asking questions. Whenever you're feeling attacked, you recognize it, then shift to asking questions. That's where your mind needs to redirect yourself. And you're controlling that. Don't allow them to control this. And again, back to the podcast on difficult conversations, one hack to not taking things personally is to ask questions. Go in with an open mind. And you may not always have control over many things in your life, including, for sure, what people say to you. But you do have 100% control over how you react to each of these situations. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. When somebody says to me, oh, that person annoys me, or that person always makes me mad, I'll stop them and ask them and say, well, why do they do that? And that usually befuddles somebody. Well, I don't know. Because you allow them to. And in this case, don't allow them to erode on your confidence. Don't allow them to control over your mind in a reaction that is not going to be developmental or positive for you. The goal of not taking things personally is to avoid unnecessary stress, unnecessary conflict. So try asking a few questions to deflect unnecessary conflict. And this unnecessary conflict may also avoid, or you redirecting your thoughts, may help you avoid the downward spiral of negative thoughts popping up in your mind. So ask open-ended questions to probe what they are sharing, what they are saying to you. Like, help me understand what you're saying, or give me an example of when I did that or when that happened, or tell me more about that. Always open-ended. Get them talking to provide you with specifics around this. And then shift your thoughts to the situation, not about this being personal. Step number three, be receptive instead of reactive. That's what I just described, isn't it? Be receptive instead of reactive. They may be giving you information that's very valuable, but you stop hearing it if you're taking it too personally. And this information may be super, super valuable to you in learning about a situation, learning about yourself, how you can better lead and manage situations, respond to people, communicate with people. But if I'm not receptive to this information, it's of no benefit to me. So let's make it beneficial to you. Don't take it personally. Don't react. Be receptive instead of reactive. And let's go into more of this reactive thing. The most common and most familiar way to respond when someone says something that triggers you is to react. We typically go to an argument or disagreement or pushback. And when you react like that, you let your ego and your mind get in the way of learning something. And by you arguing, pushing back, not listening, just common, very common, that erodes respect, the level of respect others have for you. And it also erodes your confidence. It creates pain and suffering as a result because you've not created space between what was said and the me it was directed to. And noticing your physical response, I know this is coming. This is my trigger. This is my signal. I gotta now start asking questions. That when you do that, that puts you in a receptive versus reactive, better known as an emotional response. So that's step number 3. And number 4, which may be the hardest of all of these. I've told you some really hard steps in all this, but number 4 may be the hardest for many, which is take a compassionate stance. Take a compassionate stance. When you have compassion for yourself and the people around you, you don't react and jump to assumptions. So when somebody is reacting in a way that may be inappropriate, may be overly aggressive, may be distasteful to you in some way, just imagine they're having a bad day. Or what they're saying really has a completely different meaning than what I'm understanding right now, where the questions come from. And you can make up whatever story you want just to shift your mind out of taking it personally. And a surefire hack to not jumping to a negative conclusion and thus getting triggered is to live by the rule, don't take anything personally, because not doing so puts you in a more centered, grounded place where you can be the CEO of your mind, that they're not controlling your mind. You're the boss of your mind. Don't let them win your mind. Be the gatekeeper, the controller of your responses, your mind, and how you receive information. Don't take anything personally. That's going to wrap it up today. Visit our website, rdltraining.com. That's Romeo Delta Lima Training.com. And please check out all of our service, including, and you're going to be the first, this is the first podcast to announce this, our new online trading subscription offer. It's available in 2 packages. One is just for the individual, self-paced learning for the individual, and it's only $47 per month. But that's only for a limited time for the first 50 individuals who take advantage of it. And then that offer is going to end. And if you're an executive, a business owner, you want to have some training for your entire team, results-driven leadership training for your entire team, well, we have a management team package. For as many people as you want to share it with, give it to, it's only $347 a month, unlimited. You can have 2 people, you can have 22 people, you can have 200 people. The management team training, the individual training is unlimited, meaning that they're yours forever too. There's no contract. You can end it at any time. So let's check it out. Take advantage of it because it won't be around for long. So please, thank you for listening to The Business Mechanic. And we will talk to you again really, really soon.